you so much for joining me for another top tech tips with myself, Kristof from ASE. Wonderful to have you send so many questions through this week. It has been a jam-packed week in regards to a lot of things. Generally, most of them have been focused around recent breaches, and I appreciate everyone reaching out. Thank you so much for your questions and queries. I'll try and address a few of them in today's session. Briefly, I don't want to go into too much detail, but if you do have any questions, feel free to direct message me. I will happily contact you after this session. Now, this week there was big news about APRA, who is the financial services governing body, around cybersecurity and the fact that they have actually completed near on 300 audits in regards to their CPS 234 information security compliance standard that they have been running since 2019. Now, the reason this is concerning is that the findings found that less than 24% of those who are actually audited met the required assessment criteria to actually be compliant. Now, again, let me give you a little bit of context around this. It was based around the Essential 8 framework, categories of compliance in regards to what a cybersecurity should be. And now, if you have any questions around the Essential 8, please let me know. Comment below. I have got a link. I'm more than happy to give you a bit more details around it, how the Australian Signals Directorate started at the top 4, and that has evolved into the Essential 8. Things to keep note. 1, it is not a cybersecurity framework. It is a set of categories and controls meant to help organizations be more prepared in what we call passive defense. Now, there are 8 levels of control, and the categories are including backups, for example, which is based to create a preparedness for organizations in the event that they do happen to get a cyber attack and how to recover from it. Limited areas around control around removing access to application installation, so removing administrative privileges, and some information around how to limit macros, applications, etc. So there's a lot to be said around this being a set of categories as to apply some basic principles around cybersecurity. Now, keeping in mind, these Essential 8s are really heavily skewed towards a Microsoft environment. So if you have got a Linux setup or you have a Macintosh or a Mac OS within the environment, which is heavily skewed, and you see a lot of that in the media industries and a lot of the graphic industries, that will definitely not apply very well. But nonetheless, this is still a base form of categories that people should be applying to in regards to the maturity levels. Now, APRA has gone and audited a number of organisations, and the outcomes include the fact that they weren't actually testing incident response plans. So the reason for this being so important is incident response plans are the way an organisation gets prepared in the event they do get breached. How do you notify? Who do you notify? What are the control measures you're going to use? How do you then mitigate responses and then work with the third parties or the providers or your internal teams to start to address, to understand the depth of the threat, how to actually then respond, recover, and restore. So the big part around this is that not many organizations have got a cyber incident and response plan. Why is this important? To the points that I made earlier, there is also the fact that when you are looking at cyber insurance, majority of cyber insurers will ask you to have a disaster recovery plan, a backup plan, and an cyber incident response plan. For the simple fact that it's not if, it's when people are getting breached at the moment. I mean, the last year's statistics around organizations that were breached is 1 every 7 minutes gets breached. And that's actually been the year prior to that was 10 every 10 minutes, not every 7 minutes. So if you think about that statistic, it was in 2021, 2022, that report came out. The new report from the ACSC will be out later this year, which will be around the statistics from 2022 to 2023. We expect to see that drop to around 5 or 4 minutes. So it's quite a scary statistics. So the whole point of this is it's not just about prevention, it's about response and being able to restore and bring your services back online. Now, the FSI industry holds a lot to be said in the last 10 years around how they actually address cybersecurity, but that doesn't mean that they can't be held to account. And that's exactly what APRA has been doing over the last couple of months, especially with well, it's not a fine, but the instructions to Medibank to hold $250 million to repair and recover from that breach that we all heard about last year. And one of the big reasons for that is because we're seeing more and more. You don't need to go too far to see Latitude Financial, for example. And if you've seen any of the overseas, supply chain breaches that have happened, Move It was one of the big ones because they were supply chain into many organisations. And that's also been seen in the Australian government in the fact that law firms were being breached to get through to the Australian government entities' details and data. Now, crucial fact, if you are prepared in a response, you will be much better off. In fact, statistics show over 80% of organisations can recover. And without a proper set of backups, over 90% of them aren't able to restore or recover from a breach. So very key and crucial points. And so if you have any questions around how to prepare yourself, incident response plans, backup plans, disaster recovery plans, please feel free to reach out myself or the team at ASC. I have got a link in the description below around what the regulator in APRA have found in regards to their recent report. So feel free to go have a look at it and read, especially to those of you in the FSI industry. Now, next week, please feel free to reach out. I appreciate that many of us are on leave at the moment due to being on school holidays. Doesn't mean that we don't stop, unfortunately. So neither do the criminals. They don't take a 5-minute break at any point. Feel free to reach out with your questions. I'm happy to answer them next week. I know I have a number of those that I've responded to this week in direct messages. Be safe, be well. Think before you click, please, because people are out there trying to scam, especially at tax time, and stay safe online. Until next week, take care, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Thanks for joining.